Dumbo 2019 was directed by Tim Burton from a screenplay by Ehren Kruger, known for his work on the Transformers franchise. And just like in the original film, Dumbo follows the story of an elephant. When the circus discovers that he has these giant ears, he begins to be ridiculed by everyone around him because they think he's some kind of freak for having these giant ears on his body. And over time, the story follows him as he tries to overcome all this ridicule and persecution he receives from others by discovering that he can fly. Also, this film covers a story about just the circus itself, how it grows from being like this small-time, family-owned little venture into eventually becoming more of a corporate entity later as it's purchased by Michael Keaton's character. In summation, that pretty much is what Dumbo 2019 is about. To be honest with you, the first 45 minutes of this movie really does encapsulate everything that the first movie was about. Which, that makes sense because the original movie was 64 minutes on its own. And so to have all the beats of that original film covered in the remake's first 45 minutes. So I've gone on record before for saying that I don't really care at all for Disney's trend of remaking their old animated films into live action. Personally, I just don't think any of them results in anything that is of artistic merit or value. A lot of them just feel like they were forced onto audiences and that they're just this corporate entity that's meant to generate a lot of money for what is now the Disney machine as it is today. On one hand, it does make sense as a business move. Other people have said that before and I'm going to say it again. But for me, as someone who genuinely appreciates creativity, someone who wants film studios to try to take risks to make something new, to see Disney keep on making remakes of their old animated films is just uninspired. It's discouraging to me as someone who wants to see art come out of film studios, and a lot of times they just feel pointless to me. This definitely applies to Dumbo. I really did not like this movie. Although I will mention some good points about this movie before I go on. For one thing, the integrity of the original story is maintained in this film, especially in its first 45 minutes. I think the filmmakers definitely benefited from the fact that the original Dumbo was only 64 minutes long, just barely over an hour. And so they were able to cover the basis of that story in this film's first act pretty much, and then a little bit into the second act too. So for anyone who wants to go to this movie and see how it holds up compared to the original, they'll be satisfied on that front because it pretty much covers all the same beats, albeit there's a little bit of tweaks here and there. And in terms of that, Dumbo himself, he is quite adorable. He looks absolutely photorealistic while still maintaining the charm that he had in the original film. I don't think anyone will leave this movie feeling as if Dumbo himself wasn't treated with love, because he looks absolutely amazing to look at. Also, a number of the actors in the film are quite enjoyable to watch. This is the first time that Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, and director Tim Burton have all been together on a project since Batman Returns in 1992. So on that level, it's kind of fun to see them working together in this Batman Returns reunion of sorts. As a film fan, anyone who's watching that can be like, oh yeah, they were in Batman Returns, they're back together, it's kind of nice. Also, I really enjoyed the addition of Colin Farrell to this story. Between his performance and then just the material that he's given, I think he actually does add something to this movie, especially in the scenes with Dumbo. As for everything else though, oh boy, where do we begin? This movie is it is exactly what I hate about these remakes in every way possible. And I hope that me addressing these points won't anger people who really enjoyed this movie or just enjoy Disney in general. Disney really does produce a lot of good content for families to enjoy, but I simply can't ignore the fact that Disney is turning into this kind of soulless corporate machine that just churns out products versus movies. And I have to address these things because they can't keep on getting away with this. The first thing that really bugged me about this movie is there's no real clear protagonist in this movie. The film could never decide whether or not Dumbo is the main protagonist or if it's these kids that happen to be the children of Colin Farrell's character. Honestly, you could hardly tell where they were going with this narrative and trying to see whose character would be the shining light of the story. And on that note, it almost feels like Ehren Kruger, the screenwriter, had to juggle around so many characters, so many different themes, while also still trying to maintain the integrity of the original film, that the whole entire thing just feels like a mess, the like of which becomes very repetitive, messy, and ham-fisted. Very ham-fisted, actually, with its themes towards the end. There's no real clear through line as to what the filmmakers are trying to say, or even really deal with the story. Since there's so many characters being juggled at once, none of them really get any sort of development whatsoever. In particular, the one that bugged me the most was probably the daughter of Colin Farrell's character. I mean, she's so forgettable, I even forgot her name, to be honest with you. They keep harping on the fact that this girl really loves science, and that she wants to contribute something in term that is like practical and will help other people. It already kind of feels ham-fisted in its like feminist message anyway, but they drive this point home so much, but like she never actually shows or really does anything to warrant her just saying that. It's basically just lip service to try to make people feel as if girls are empowered. Don't get me wrong, I really do support female empowerment in film, but it can't just be lip service. You know, it has to serve the character, it has to help them grow. And in this movie, they just talk about her having this interest in science and being able to contribute to other things, but it never really comes around until the end. And on that note too, those child actors, I feel bad for saying this, but they honestly are so emotionally flat and boring in their delivery of their lines. I don't know if it's to blame on them or Tim Burton, but their performances are so weak, and it drives down the quality of the film every time they show up on screen. They'll literally just walk on the scene, stand there like emotionless and be like, oh, Dumbo's flying. Oh, Dumbo is hurt. We need to help him. Hey, Dad, why is Mom gone? It's stuff like that. And they just stand there stiff and they don't have any emotion in what they're saying. Even the adult performers, like a lot of them are really good in this movie, but their characters have nothing to them. And so it almost feels like the actors are just trying to do their best to make do with what they were given by the screenplay. They do make for some entertaining moments here and there, but it's not enough to really feel as if the experience was worth it and that it added anything to what the original film was saying. The film itself profoundly misses the point in that too. You know, it tries to throw in so many things about prejudice, sexism, and then all of these strange ideas about corporate takeover, which is especially ironic given what Disney has done to Fox this past month. There's so much weird stuff going on and none of it meshes. And it just makes for a movie that feels maddening by the time it comes to a conclusion, especially the final act where it kind of feels like the film, for whatever reason, wanted to come to a conclusion with this exciting set piece, which feels completely out of place with what the original film was trying to do and with what this film was trying to do as well. It really just felt like the filmmakers are making this generic blockbuster that people will hopefully come and enjoy, and because they had some exciting set pieces, they might potentially say that it was okay and tell others to go to. There's nothing here that feels like it's completely original or artistic of any way. It just exists. And I can't really recommend it on that level because a film has to give you a reason to watch it. Dumbo tries to throw so many reasons at you that it just becomes maddening as a result, and it's a huge mess. And one other final point I have to say about that is not only is it a narrative mess in terms of what the filmmakers are trying to accomplish, the visuals in this film are also very disappointing. I've seen some other people say that Dumbo is a visually stunning film, and for those people, I'm not going to tear down their argument. They can enjoy this film and they can appreciate the visuals. For me, though, I just couldn't really bring myself to appreciate what they were trying to accomplish here, because Dumbo suffers from the same problem, at least for me, some of the Star Wars prequels face now. When you watch the Star Wars prequels on your TV nowadays, you can look at these images and you can so tell that these actors were performing their lines and acting together on sets that weren't necessarily real. You know, you can completely tell that these locations were completely fabricated in the computer after they were filmed in like a green or blue screen room. And for the most part, that's how this film feels too. Clearly Disney had the money to where they could have filmed these things on an actual location, and the shots could have been composed in such a way to make you feel as if you are actually in 1919 America, but nothing is done in such a way that feels completely authentic and real. I can't tell you how many shots in this movie feel completely fabricated in a computer, and it's not going to hold up well. Films that age and grow over time are ones whose visuals don't have to rely so much on computer-generated imagery. They have to incorporate something real in order to make them timeless and to age. I feel that Dumbo's not going to age within the next 6 months or so. People are going to notice that green screen, and it's going to come across as so obvious that they're just trying to get this product out into theaters. They didn't really care too much about how the film looked, particularly in the shot composition, the way that the sets look, and then of course just a color palette that doesn't have any vibrancy or even really just attractive colors to look at. Guys, I know there are a lot of people out there who enjoy these remakes, and for those people who do, that's awesome. Keep on enjoying them and having fun with them. Personally, I just don't find anything really of worth in these movies, especially in this new Dumbo remake, and I'm going to be giving it a score of D+. For an age recommendation, I don't really feel there's anything in this movie that feels inappropriate for children, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it an all ages recommendation. Thanks again for watching this review, guys. I appreciate your support of me as always. As always, feel free to check out the links in the description for my Facebook, Letterboxd, and Instagram pages. Please follow me there and subscribe to my channel as well. And thank you for watching, guys. Have a good one.